I'm Jim Check, with me Ian Burns, and this is the Really Big Show, live every morning at 9 o'clock or thereabouts, I guess, 9:02. That's better than yesterday, though. We were late because Ian had a migraine, but he's back in the saddle. And today somebody stole our lights. I don't know where they went, so we're a little darker than usual, but hey, we don't have that $1.55 billion to work with. I mean, we're short about $1.55 billion, but anyway. Let's get into the headlines. Carney talks new world order in China. That shocked a few people. The U.S. does deal with Taiwan. And Hodgson touts China as a climate leader. The conflicts, why is no one asking? The words new world order, tough for some to take. The media ramps up push for China as the way forward. Getting an answer on a pipeline is worse than pulling all your teeth out. Liberals want records deleted quicker. Imagine that. Cooling off period is more of a suggestion, I guess. And TV is dying as the only audience left is literally dying. Decision expected today on the Emergencies Act, and I believe the decision is there. We just got breaking news. The decision is down, so get ready for that. This is a big decision too. Poly markets, gambling, or just a new futures market married to tech. X under attack. Any guesses? Chamath says he wants behind the curtain, and AI will drive prosperity. And U.S. Greenland working with the U.S. And what the hell, UK? What the hell? And we got some bumps for sure, because a lot of the time we're playing clips from X here, so we're going to hope it works, because X seems to be, this is the second day this week that X has gone down, which is unusual. Maybe they're under attack by MI6, but we got some nice comments here that we'll share with you. We appreciate all the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell. We never say that. Hit that bell, and then as soon as we go live, you'll get an email or a text or however you set it up on your YouTube, and then you'll get that notification right away there, eh? And yeah. So the big one though, Mark Carney. With his entourage of Anita Anand, Tim Hodgson, Melanie Jolie, and a few others, and Scott Moe was there along for the ride. Got a deal in China. Let's listen in on this is a little clip here after President Xi speaks. This is Melanie Jolie listening to President Xi. He looks like.
Thank you, President Xi, for your hospitality, for the warm welcome that's been extended to this delegation, and for the opportunity that our partnership brings to both our peoples, and I would suggest as well to the world. Mr. President, together we can build on the best of what this relationship has been in the past to create a new one, adapted to new global realities that will deliver stability, security, and prosperity to our peoples on both sides of the Pacific.
That's good.
Imagine going into battle against Xi Jinping and the entire Chinese Communist Party. And to your left, you've got Anita Anand. To your right, you've got Melanie Jolie. I mean, what's the equivalent of that? Like, it's God bless Mark Carney there and Canada. God preserve Canada.
Yeah, Melanie Jolie looks like she was actually infatuated while she was listening to President Xi. Look at the look on her face there. It was just like, okay.
I think she's been watching the videos from North Korea where they all, when the dear leader speaks, and all the North Koreans, including all the officials, are just like they even get a pen and paper out and they're like, yes, what wisdom can I acquire?
But they got a deal, though. They got a deal, and we've been talking about this deal for a long time. They said they're going to have to drop the EV tariffs to get the canola going, and that's basically the deal. So they have dropped the EV tariffs for the 49,000 vehicles, I believe, that are allowed here in Canada for the first year, and then it'll go up from there. In exchange, the tariffs on canola have been dropped to, I believe, 15%.
Yeah, well, I averaged out on all the products. Yeah, that's what it came to.
Yeah, down from the 84%. So, and there's a couple other small things in there as well. But one of the interesting ones also in there is that you don't need a visa to go to China anymore. That was one of the side pieces in there. China will also allow Canadian visitors to enter the country visa free. Make sure you take a burner phone.
I'm gonna book my tickets now. I'm gonna go to Shandong and pay homage to Confucius. Why not?
Yeah, the food professor always put out there that it's good for the food industry for sure, for canola, and he also on rapeseed and lobster. Make sure you cut that lobster in half, though, right before you boil it.
That's the human way.
We covered that story yesterday. But you know, 49,000 EVs in the first year. I mean, Doug Ford likely not going to be happy with this deal. I mean, it's not. I mean, we're going to talk about it later. There's some winners and losers in this deal for sure. But you know, it depends on how it works too. Because even Tesla was affected by these Chinese EV tariffs. Because the Model 3 basically not even really for sale in Canada because it ships out of Shanghai. So, but BC.
Well, they haven't talked about Tesla though. They talked about an average import price of $35,000. I mean, that's not Tesla's bracket at all, is it? But Doug Ford is indeed furious. He's come out and said that's going to flood the market. It's going to really upset the Americans. And he also said, need to get rid of the regulations and get rid of the EV mandate so that we can compete here in Canada. You know, he's that love affair, the Carney Ford love affair is looking like it might be coming to an end. But once again, we have to ask, do you regret it yet, Doug? Do you regret supporting Mark Carney and eschewing and ostracizing Pierre Poilievre? I don't know. Maybe one day we'll learn if he does regret it.
We have talked about this relentlessly and saying if they lift the EV mandate, I mean, if they lift the EV tariffs, it'll kill the auto sector and they'll all go south. And that's likely what's going to happen. That's what Doug Ford's freaking out about. And China's been trying to get a foothold even through Mexico to get manufacturing of their EVs here or their cars here in North America. And this looks like, you know, like they got their foot in the door for sure. This is the big thing. Auto manufacturing, huge for the Chinese. I mean, they're basically squeezed. They used to be, all the auto manufacturers used to go to China. Mercedes included, BMW, Ford, Chevy, all those guys were there. And they're basically not selling any cars. They've got 100 EV manufacturers in China. So they just can't compete with the price.
And this is what happens in all areas with China. This is why people are so cautious about doing trade with China, because as I've said, I mean, I await anybody that can come with a counterexample. But as I've said many times, every single country that's gone into a deep trading relationship with China since Deng Xiaoping's reforms has lost and China's won. That's happened in absolutely every area. And all you've got to do is just look around. Just look at China's look at all of the tables where China's number one in production. It's basically like everything. They're the number one producer of basically everything, and they've come in and destroyed, absolutely ravaged some certain economies. Like Brazil is one of the more famous ones or infamous ones, where they just completely trashed the Brazilian economy. Brazil lost so badly in that in that trading relationship. But what's so funny is, I don't know if you read the joint statement that they put out there. So this is both Canada and China have agreed to this statement. You scroll down there and there's a section on multilateralism where they say, let's have a look. We reaffirm our commitment to safeguarding and improving the rules-based multilateral trading system underpinned by the World Trade Organization. I mean, I don't know if anyone else's head is exploding when they read that. China has never gone by the rules of the World Trade Organization. They've undermined the World Trade Organization every single day since they became members in, I believe, 2001. It's absolutely absurd, the idea that China obeys the international rules-based system, and it's just absolute fantasy. And to think that a Canadian government has put their name to this document, which is just absolutely 100% fake, just total deceit and lies. Kind of tells you quite a bit about maybe how desperate they are to do this deal.
I mean, they would chalk it up as their first big win. You know, you could argue now the Liberals, I mean, they will be touting it like crazy, that this is their first win in close to a year now. This is their first win. They got something, you know, they got the canola removed, which would make Scott Moe happy. But I mean, the Americans did that too. And the Chinese don't live up to their end of the bargain. How many times? Like, you know, like Trump touted that deal too, that he got that big canola deal done and soybean deal done with them, but they just don't end up buying anything. And it's over and over and over again that China never lives up to its end. And it'll even tell you that it's going to work on climate change. Like, we know that's not even close to the truth. But and BC also signed an MOU with China on wood construction. It's done its own deal, signing a memorandum of understanding on modern wood construction with the communist superpower. I like how now they're wording their communist superpower. The province said it hopes that the non-binding agreement will lead to a boost in exports for BC's beleaguered lumber industry. I mean, we will do a deal with the devil right now because we've suppressed our forest sector for over a decade now. Our BC forest industry has been suppressed, and it's just basically, you know, in shambles. And that's not because of Trump. We did that ourselves with bad forest management. No access to fiber. You can go back and read the press release. You go read all the stuff we've done on Kelowna on the forest industry, the interviews I've done with the forest minister, the interviews I've done with industry. The forestry industry in BC has been in shambles long before Trump showed up. And now we're basically at the begging bowl at the communist superpower because of bad policy and weak leadership in Canada. That's the reality situation. Same for Mark Carney. We're at the begging bowl with the communist superpower because of weak leadership for over a decade. How many charts can you and I pull up that show you a weak leadership for over a decade?
Yeah, and it really does seem to all go a bit crazy in the year 2015. Sometimes it's kind of, it bleeds into 2014 as well, doesn't it? But it's around about then. And then there's no recovery really, is it? It just sinks. But this is another area, I mean, you can't win. You can't win on trade with China. But also, it's such a terrible predicament because you can't win by ignoring China either. You can't just ignore China. It's a horrible situation. There's like an inevitability about it.
Can't be our primary.
There's an impossibility to it. You just can't win with China.
It can't be our primary. It should be a secondary. It should, you know what I mean? Like, we should do some trade with them, but it can't be our primary because we're going to get the short end of that stick. But here's the one that shocked. I think we heard this one go around the world, and watch Scott Moe's face. Actually, just watch Scott Moe's face when he says it.
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
That needs to be sampled in a trip hop song right now, doesn't it? It almost sounds like the start of a very good song. Just why did he say it like that?
But it also reminds me of when I used to go to church a lot. It seemed like we were there with the clerics, and they were just bringing down the word from the mount. And Scott Moe was just shocked that he basically said, "You've now done a deal with the devil." Well, Jolie's face there looks like she ate all the birds. Like, she's like, just, you know, the cat there is just eating everything. She's definitely in Jolie heaven, whereas Scott Moe is like, I got the canola thing, but I don't know if I'm going to survive. I'm going to go back to Saskatchewan with this New World Order. It has shocked a lot of people, though. It is shocked. And any one of the Bloomberg reporters asked the question, what do you mean by that? Let's listen to Mark Carney's response.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg News. Yesterday, when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership with Canada and China, this new partnership, sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear what we're talking about first and foremost, which is what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership, potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU? Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that? All of these aspects, I mean, use a fancy word, like the architecture, the multilateral system that has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything. Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade, climate finance as another area, to move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity. You will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about, but the evolution of the global financial system, the role of the renminbi over time, the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important elements of how the system is going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily through the IMF, WTO, and other multilateral organizations, it is going to be coalitions that develop them, not for the world, but for subsectors of the world.
You know, I'm pretty sure most people's eyes glazed over there, and they even forgot what the question was. They're just like, what are we talking about? And the multilateral pluralism, what?
As intended. That's what he was going for. He wanted you to forget what it was about. But also, I mean, you say multilateralism and pluralism. He didn't even say pluralism. He said plurilateralism. He invented a word, as he often does. And then he also said, okay, I'm going to use a fancy word, architecture. It's like, what? 10-year-olds use that word. What are you talking about? He kind of cracks me up. I mean, it would be a bit more tolerable if it wasn't for the vocal fry. I can't hear that. It makes my skin crawl. It's like fingernails on a chalkboard where it's like, plurilateral. It's like, so, I mean, that might seem like a bit of a low blow, but, you know, I've got to listen to this guy every day of my life pretty much. And it's torture.
Well, I mean, when they signed that letter, there's another thing about this world financial order they're talking about and this WTO and all these things. Don't forget when they signed that letter, which is when they went out in defense of Jerome Powell, that was the EU, Canada, and Brazil. And Brazil is also part of BRICS nation, Brazil, Russia, India, China. So that's who we're choosing to align with right now. Brazil, we're putting our name right next to them. China, Russia is his best friend. Russia and China. I mean, they have what's that word they use? Like there's no holds barred on that relationship between Russia and China. Like it doesn't matter
beyond
what
limits, yeah.
Beyond limits. It doesn't matter what they do. And then so in one hand, we're giving all this money to Ukraine to fight the devil, Russia. On the other hand, we are now giving money to China so that they can fund Russia. I'm just like, what is literally going on?
But he also said he even had the goal. I don't know if he regretted it after he started the sentence, but he started to talk about Ukraine and in the context of like the multilateral world order and international cooperation and the coalition of the willing and all the rest of it. It's like I was just thinking, like, you're sat there in Beijing, like you're in the headquarters, you're in like the engine room of Russia's war machine right now. Not a single word to say about that. I think he even said that he spoke to him about Ukraine, spoke to him about Greenland, and we were in accord on Greenland. He said, but just remarkable that he could come there and say that. Like, supposedly the Liberal Party, that's one of their number one priorities, is to help the Ukrainians.
Sorry.
And then
Did
they
you
went
say
there to the number one backer of the Russians who've invaded Ukraine, and not a single word said about it. In fact, it was almost spoken about as if China was like similar to Canada, like a responsible world power. It's just completely absurd. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight, because you mentioned that he reminded you a little bit of a priest or whatever speaking in a church. Mark Carney has said on numerous occasions that he's a pretty deeply convicted. He's got strong conviction as a Catholic, as a Christian. Nothing at all. Not even anything through the back channels, through the Globe and Mail or CBC. Nothing whatsoever about the persecution of Christians in China. I mean, that's a bit on the nose, isn't it? That's a bit hard to swallow. But maybe they'll do a bit of work on that in the aftermath, and they'll get some kind of quote out to the CBC where it's like, oh, actually, he did bring up the persecution of Christians, but it's a lot of poison to swallow, really, isn't it? Especially from, and I have to say, really solely, or particularly anyway, because it's coming from this party, the Liberal Party, that has propped itself up and presented itself to the Canadian people as morally superior and as an arbiter of morality and ethics, and as the good party. Like, we're the good guys. We get the moral decisions right. That's rather jarring, isn't it, when you see him in Beijing being as servile as that.
Did you say that he talked to China about Greenland and they're in accord with each other? Did you say those words? Or
Yeah, he said we talked about Greenland, and we believe that Greenland belongs to that's an issue for the Greenlandic people to decide upon.
Of course, yeah. China would believe that because that is the threat there, China and Russia. Yeah, okay. Here's from Terry Newman.
It's honestly, the word sellout kind of works. But then again, I'm not here to sort of. I think it would be quite foolish to go to Beijing and try and lecture China, especially if you're the Prime Minister of Canada. I just think that would be demented. That would be a completely foolish thing to do. So I don't necessarily. I'm not objecting in like absolute terms. However, if your party is based on the idea that you believe in human rights and international law and all these sorts of things, and like you're the morally good people in Canada, then then I get a little bit upset about it, because then it's just hypocrisy, isn't it? And it's basically a kind of fraud.
It's like a gaggle of chickens walked into the fox's den and are strutting around like they're going to be okay. I don't know. And that's in CBC going hard to work there. This is Terry Newman. Today's CBC news briefing, CBC repeats Carney's line ironically. Canada has a broader relationship with the U.S., but the Canada relationship with China is more predictable. So they're already working hard to sell this to the Canadian public. I don't know who's watching CBC, though, so we're going to talk about it later, though. We'll talk about it later.
The Liberal Party, they're watching it. Liberal MPs.
And if you want the biggest lie of the bunch there's Tim Hodgson. He's got to be Tim the Touter. Tim the Touter, he's going to get that name. But listen to this tout. You got to love this tout. Like, who believes this one? But let's go, Tim.
Let me be clear. We are here because we share a goal. We share a goal on getting to net zero. We believe we have lots of common interests with respect to how we use clean energy to get there, and we have common interests around how to get there on a conventional basis. And we're going to exploit that for the benefit of Canadian workers and for Canadians.
Well, if you got that BS card, if you got that one handy, you can lay that one down right now. You can play that card right now because, I don't know who's buying that. That China is in a race to get to net zero. Come on. That's a tough sell, buddy.
Yeah, well, they're in a race to use it to weaken their opponents. I mean, geopolitical nerds out there will know that China's primary weakness, and it really is, this is its Achilles heel, is that it doesn't have enough fossil fuels within its territory to fuel its economy. It relies on imports. That is its number one weakness. In many ways, that's the reason why it can't supplant the United States. That's one of the few reasons.
It would.
So for them to go on about how great, non-fossil fuel energy is, there's a little bit of kind of, they're trying to weaken you so that you're as weak as they are. So they turn their weakness into a shared weakness that everybody suffers from. But anyway, you asked earlier about Greenland, and I can actually read the quote to you now because I've just had a quick look. So he said that he talked to Xi. So he said, I had discussions with President Xi about the situation in Greenland, about sovereignty in the Arctic, about sovereignty of the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, and I found much alignment of views in that regard. That's verbatim. That's what he said. So remarkable, isn't it? And especially since today, just now, in the last hour, Donald Trump's come out and said he will consider sanctions on countries that don't agree with the United States' position on the sovereignty of Greenland, i.e. that it's a part of the United States. So, dangerous game. As usual, anything you do with China, especially if you do it behind the Americans' back, very, very dangerous game.
This is the part that puzzles me the most. NATO's real purpose is to make sure it's protected against countries like China and Russia, the two biggest threats that almost everybody can agree with. And here's Canada agreeing that against the Americans and saying that China now agrees with, or Canada now agrees with, or China agrees with Canada that it should be Greenland its own sovereign state. Of course, China would agree with that because it weakens America. That one.
Yeah, obviously, because China can get in there and fiddle and mess around with a population of 58,000 people and get what they want in a way that they couldn't do that if it was the possession of the United States. Clearly. I mean, obviously, who needs to be instructed in matters of that kind? I mean, other than Melanie Jolie, maybe.
And then the question that nobody's asking is all the conflicts that Mark Carney has with China. And this, I mean, we're going to put this back up here yesterday, just all these headlines and all the stuff that China's, accused of doing here in Canada, including election interference, including backing Mark Carney's election, which, when he was asked that, we won't play the clip again, but when he was asked, he said, well, why did China help you win the election? I don't know. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, and so will the press. Don't worry. You're not going to be asked about that again.
Don't worry about that.
Also, Pierre Poilievre has released a statement where he mentions, again, the elephant in the room, the obvious, which none of the media have mentioned, which is the $1 billion given to, the sort of sweetheart loan given to BC Ferries that was then given to the Chinese Communist Party for ferries in BC. Not mentioned. It's left to Pierre Poilievre to say it, and the media, I can almost guarantee you, will not pick that up. That's just gonna dribble away.
Here's a Conservative MP putting this out just to remind, but I mean, they're not asking, there's so many conflicts of interest. Mark Carney literally got a loan from the Bank of China while he met with President Xi in 2024, just not even a year ago, and took over a $250 million loan from the Bank of China. And they have massive exposure. Brookfield has massive exposure in a falling real estate market in China. That's likely why he had to take the money from the Bank of China. And then also, they have investments in battery plants there, lots of investments there. And here's this thing. Look at this. This is Mark Carney's unexercised Brookfield options. Nobody asks these questions. Like, Mark Carney's conflicted. Like, I mean, these are the questions should be asked. We just did a deal with EVs. You have battery plants here. You have investments in battery plants. That's odd. You just did a loan with President Xi's bank himself. Like, you were there. So these deals you're doing for Canada, the Greenland comment has got to be the worst comment ever. Like, I mean, that is basically, we rest under the protection of the United States. Are we going to then say we're going to rest under the protection of China? Is that our next step? Because I don't think that's going to fly.
Well, China's going to have to build a navy that can, travel more than a couple of 100 miles off the coast of China. They're going to have to do that first. It's just crackers, isn't it? And as well, like, in comparison to the Chinese, the Americans are, and I don't mean to say this in an absolute sense, because the Americans are cheeky buggers as well in their own way. But the Americans are just so much more generous than the Chinese in terms of the trade and relationship that we've had with them for so long in this country, and with other countries as well. The Americans have been, quite free and easy with a lot of their with access to their markets and so on, and tolerated asymmetrical trading relationships. They've permitted that to occur. The Chinese, on the other hand, are rather parsimonious. It's impossible to imagine us ever really building an economy around trade with China the way that we have with the United States. And that's before you even start to talk about the military. It is, if it's a fine line to walk, and I don't suspect that the Liberals and Carney are actually stupid enough or suicidal enough to think that they can do a switcheroo and go to China over the US. I really don't think that they think that, because that's just insane. But it's a fine line to walk, and you've got to be very careful because you don't want to upset the Americans enough.
Well, I think that
they kind of walk away. You really don't want to do that.
I think the Greenland comment actually definitely stepped over the line. But some of the comments here, we need to get rid of taxpayer-funded news. That's been our battle cry. Help support local independent media. Independent news it's 2026 because literally the government-funded media will sell itself out for a sausage roll. We showed you that on just a couple of days ago.
And some buttery tarts.
Literally sold their souls for a sausage roll. And government-funded media, you watch what the CBC does in the next few days. They're going to be pushing hard on why China is such a great deal, such a big win for the Carney liberals and all that stuff. And Canada's in this spot because the Americans are going to attack us. That's what the CBC is, and we're going to talk about it later. How even Mark Miller says that its job is social cohesion, which is basically brainwashing you. And it's a word used by communist parties, social cohesion. Anyway, support.
It's a struggle. Somebody just respond to someone else in the comments. Somebody said something about they were upset because I referred to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, that's become a bit of a dividing line, hasn't it, between left and right, I feel. And a lot of the time, people aren't really thinking when they talk about that. And I find that a little bit upsetting. I'm not in any way, like a Chrystia Freeland style Slava Ukraina kind of person. I'm not mindless on this subject, but still, and I'm also not. I'm not ignorant to the grievances that the Russians had, but still, I mean, Russia did invade Ukraine. I mean, I can't understand why people. Again, someone else has said it. What happened then? They didn't. What did they do? Did they invade their own territory that just happened to be Ukrainian? What about like Zaporizhia? Zaporizhia, is that Russian territory? Was it always Russian? I mean, come on.
I think that's something
you got to do a bit more thinking. I feel on this subject.
Let's focus on the bigger issue right now, and that is we're doing a deal with China. I mean, that's the issue, right? We could sit there and argue about Russia and Ukraine for a long time, but the media again is the key. The Liberals survive because they have crippled and corrupted the media in Canada, and then $1.55 billion and the $150 million increase in funding for the CBC. And CTV just put out another thing saying they need more money from the government as they laid off another 700 employees just in November. We cannot have taxpayer-funded media. We cannot have taxpayer-funded media. It must be pulled back. They would be going to town on this. Who's talking about the conflicts of interest? This is absolutely crazy that we have a prime minister that is so conflicted and the media doesn't even ask any questions. And in that sausage one, I know that I keep going on. People are thinking it's funny, the sausage roll. But it is so funny, but it's so horrible at the same time because literally the media didn't say a word while he was picking sausage rolls out for him. That is going to be like the Orwellian thing, is it? People are actually just sitting there waiting for their sausage roll, not daring to ask a question on the $1.1 billion loan to the Chinese thing, the conflicts of interest, the no pipeline. None of those things matter other than getting access to that sausage roll. It must have been a hell of a sausage roll.
Well, it's the Online News Act, isn't it? That's one of the main sort of vectors of this taxpayer money into the pockets of the media. And I can't remember the name of the publication now, but a Chinese language publication in Canada went bust recently, much to the dismay of lots of people who've been talking about it. And it's revealed I think it was the CBC revealed it, that they've benefited to the tune of $1 million courtesy of the Online News Act. That's your money. And that's some random Chinese language newspaper that basically nobody's ever heard of that's gone bust. So that's just like one sort of little indication, isn't it, of how much of your money, taxpayers' money, has been poured into the media by the Liberal Party.
This is Dan Knight. Carney's China deal lands and the fine print matters. China delivers relief for farmers and uncertainty for auto workers. Yeah, Doug Ford's going to lose his mind because you can tell right now in the boardrooms right now at Ford, GM, Stellantis, they're going to say this is like the final straw for the auto sector in Canada. I mean, they warned them about the EV mandate forever, and Chrystia Freeland would not listen. You come out of those meetings, those same meetings with the 6 CEOs in Canada here, saying how everything is great and the EV mandate is great. And the CEOs would come out of that same meeting, so they got to scrap the EV mandate or there'd be no auto sector in Canada. And it's just obliviousness. And it's just because they control the messaging. They control the messaging. X is the only hope here in Canada and outlets like us to take this on. Actually, you know what? We have to thank the Liberals and the Online News Act. They created us because we were a local independent outlet. We were a local independent outlet. And they basically attacked us. They attacked us and crippled and corrupted us. We used to have this massive newsroom and we used to do tons of things. We were going public. We were going to take Now Media across Canada with Kelowna Now, all the Nows. And they basically crippled us with the Online News Act. They took away half our revenue, half our traffic. They took our audience of 200,000 away from Facebook. And we were content just doing the local market. So the only thing we could do is turn to a national, international market and try to, because I mean, nobody else has taken the space. Where is independent media here in Canada? We are an actual accredited media organization that's been operating for what, 15 years now here, serving our community. And we beat all the other outlets here. We had a bigger social footprint than all the legacy outlets here in Kelowna. And we were the last ones in because we knew how to do things. And this is the Liberals created us. So help us take a swing at Goliath, I guess.
And to an extent, it's not even just us. I mean, Rebel is a bit different, but since it's probably the more famous or most famous one, alternative media in Canada, I feel like the Trudeau era kind of created them as well, what they are now. And there's some people here mentioning other like YouTube channels. Yeah, I mean, they did. The Liberals created all of that through their quite clumsy and quite haughty approach to media in this country. And there's a similar story in Europe, for example, where they complain, don't they? They're always complaining about like the rise of populists and things like that, as if it just like happened out of thin air. It's like, these are your children. You created these problems. You created all of these parties, like the AfD in Germany. That was a creation of Angela Merkel and other extraordinarily incompetent and stupid leaders in Germany. And then they sort of like sit down and do a serious interview in the New York Times, and it's like, oh, this populism, like, what do you do? It's like, you invented it. You created this.
We will fight on. We will fight on for a better tomorrow and a better Canada. We fight for Camelot. How's that? And again, from Terry Newman. So are Canadians going to have to choose between being allied with China, Russia, Qatar, and Hamas, or the U.S. and Israel? I mean, really, what is going on? The alignment seems really odd. And it's not just, it's different if they went to China and made a trade deal. Do you know what I mean? They made a deal for EVs and that. But sticking a stick in the Americans' eyes at the same time seems to make no sense whatsoever. Seems to make no sense. It's like that added insult. Not sure why that's happening. Do you know what I mean? The Greenland thing, I'm not sure why that's happening. The world order, because China and Russia have been trying to break the American dollar as well. They've been trying to break the American dollar. And that was one thing that Trump warned them about early on, because the BRICS nation were trying to get off the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar gives them amazing strength. The military and the U.S. dollar are the two biggest strengths of the United States government. That is.
And self-sufficiency in fossil fuels. They are the fossil fuel superpower.
They are. Many people, and you can make the argument, I could sit here and talk for an hour of why they are the last superpower, based on their geography, based on their resources, based on their military, based on their technology. I mean, there's nobody even close to them. So when you sidle up to China, they're not even close when it comes to military might and all the stuff that's happening. So like, Canada, come on, wake up, smell the coffee, and stop being so silly. I don't know if the word is silly or sanctimonious, again, virtue signaling, whatever, this TDS and all this stuff that's going on. And here's Roman Baber, who used to live in the USSR for 9 years. He says the Chinese Communist Party has over 2 million Muslims in labor camps, but, you just look the other way, right? But hey, every time the Americans do something you don't like, you highlight that, run 10 news stories on it, and everybody comes out and says that Elon Musk is a Nazi and Donald Trump is, all these things. But look the other way when you talk about labor camps and genocide and all that stuff, what the Chinese government has done to people, executing Canadians as well.
Yeah, willy-nilly, frankly, or just kidnapping them as well. It's happened during
Putting out
the Wanzhou affair.
Literally interfering in our elections, putting $1 million bounty on a candidate. And then one of the other candidates telling the people to go and collect him and take him to the Chinese consulate, they can get an easy $1 million. And Mark Carney did nothing about it. Nothing about it. The RCMP had to do something about it. Those are the things.
Also, the consulate police stations that were discovered, well, I mean, people knew about them, but they were brought to light, weren't they, that they operate these kind of police stations.
Well, they just took
and
an
then
ad
the
out.
United
They want to
Front.
share policing. They want to share international policing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about that in the MOU, or the joint statement. They talk a lot about security and working together on police operations and
things. The Americans are going to love that. They were going to allow Chinese security forces to be working on Canadian soil. That'll go over well. I'm sure it will.
Indeed.
And there's Laurie Goldstein from the Toronto Sun there. I get the reason for it, but the Prime Minister calling China our strategic partner after calling it our greatest security threat. We talked about this yesterday, as Orwell's 1984. It's always been at war with East Asia. Now it's allied with. You know what I mean? It's just.
That's what I said to you yesterday. Isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the line that I quoted. Yeah. Funny. I mean, it's like lowbrow almost, isn't it? Because it's such low-hanging fruit. But
I can.
What do you do when it's this on the nose? Like, they make it feel like a cliche, but like they're actually doing it. So what else do we have but cliches at this point?
Peter Hookster says you said not need Canada. I mean, at some point, like somebody's got to diffuse this situation here. Like, I don't know, like there's people now saying that Trump supported Carney so that he could weaken Canada and that Canada would want to separate into the United States. Like, maybe, because it sure doesn't look like they're best of friends. I mean, he keeps saying it, best of friends, but I mean, that's not how you treat friends, obviously, right? And Carney, he says he has a great relationship with Trump, and he sticks in his eye. Like, I don't like, if that's friends, I don't need any friends.
But that's the thing, like, a lot of people have been suggesting that Carney should kind of just swallow some of the abuse that he's been getting from Trump, or Canada's been getting from Trump, and the Liberals should just like swallow it and accept that this is a very, very, very big country. In so many ways, this is our master. Let's please them and be nice to them. And people who've said that have been called traitors and all kinds of terrible things. It's like, no, we've got to stand up for ourselves against the Americans. And then these same people are now clapping like seals when they see Mark Carney go to Beijing and kiss the feet of Xi Jinping, a real full-blown imperial dictator. Like, it doesn't make sense. There is no consistency. And this is another reason why I find it so disappointing to see Mark Carney be prostrate in Beijing, because that's not his attitude at all with the Americans, with Trump. And then he says, we see the world as it is rather than as we wish it to be. Is that the whole world except the United States then? That's not allowed to be in that category. It's just, it doesn't make sense. There's no alignment there. There's no logic to it.
Keep your eye on the Canadian currency. Mark Carney was also there during Brexit, and the currency had a currency event there in England as well.
Well, yeah, the people who brought Mark Carney in, George Osborne and David Cameron, they're the ones that like headhunted Mark Carney and persuaded him to come and be the governor of the Bank of England. They went really hard on China relations, talked about like this golden era of excellent relations with China. There's a video and pictures of Xi Jinping having a pint of beer in an English pub, I believe, in the Cotswolds, like Hobbit land. Very sort of amusing imagery. But the government, the British government then, when Mark Carney was there, are generally recognised to have gone way too far and exposed Britain to all kinds of things that the country is still suffering from now. Let them come in, give them access to the civilian nuclear power plants, brought them in to build a nuclear power plant at one point. Just astonishing mistakes were made. And we should say as well, talking about nuclear power, in that statement, there is a declaration that the Canada and China are going to work together on civil nuclear power. So does that mean are they going to come and help us build nuclear power plants in Canada? We're going to have potentially Chinese operated nuclear power plants? Who knows?
Well, here comes the Liberal media machine. Liberal appointee Senator Yun Pao Wow Wu said yesterday the Prime Minister has to watch his back in promoting friendship with Chinese Communist Party. The senator said unnamed China haters sought to sabotage close relations with Beijing. He has to watch. He wrote that on a Twitter post. 51st state thinking is deeply embedded in Canada in Sinophobia. So this is what they're starting. The media machine is starting up. So if you say anything negative about China, you are a Sinophobia. McCarthyism is making a comeback. Wu went further in January 12 commentary published on the Senate webpage of the Hill Times. I'll see it. Hill Times and Ottawa Weekly. The biggest challenge facing Carney when he travels to the People's Republic of China is not the obstruction of Chinese officials, but the determination of some Canadians to ensure that he fails in the mission. There you go. So they're laying the groundwork right now. So if you object to this, that you are suffering from Sinophobia. That's it. No, you can't you can't ask about anything else. You know what I mean? Like they did this for all kinds of different things. When immigration was running high and there was no access to health care and rents were running high, if you dared say anything, Mark Miller called you a racist. So just
xenophobia is a ridiculous attempt to try and make somebody sound like a racist as well. Obviously, yeah. Sino just means, as most people are aware, it's just means Chinese basically. So it means to be irrationally prejudiced against or fearful of the Chinese people. Quite strange because everything I know about almost everything I know that's critical of the Chinese Communist Party, all the histories that I've read, pretty much all of them were written by Chinese people. So I don't know what that means then. Are they xenophobic as well?
So this is just the media machine getting ready and priming the screechers to make sure anybody that puts out anything that is against China right now, and like our trepidation of getting involved with a communist superpower, is that we're suffering from xenophobia, and and that minimizes and marginalizes what you have to say. So there you go. All that for a sausage roll. Listen, and here it is. 9 months later, well, so more than 10 months, can't keep score. Here's Gregor Robertson, the former mayor of Vancouver and now the housing minister, with Vasi Kapelas. We're not going to do the whole 5 minutes because it's 5 minutes of the same stuff. Well, here's Gregor Robertson asking the question on the oil tanker ban.
Do you support an exemption under the tanker ban as spelled out in the MOU your government signed?
At this point, the tanker ban stands, and at this point, the focus for us is on making sure that all of the work happening through the Major Projects Office right now, which involves a significant amount of shipping that will impact the coast of BC, we have to make sure that we are managing that very carefully and make sure that we can create this economic opportunity with LNG, with critical minerals, and making sure we're looking after the coast. So that's first and foremost. The tanker ban is in place, and it will be obviously a significant change to do anything about that. We don't have a project in front of us that would put that on the front burner. So at this point, we're really focused on how we manage the growth that's already in front of us on the coast, and how we make sure that we're protecting that important coastline and the jobs attached to it.
Respectfully, Minister, though, I asked for your specific position. And to be totally transparent, I asked because I remember when you were mayor of Vancouver, your very distinct opposition to the construction of TMX. You may not have that pipeline in front of you, but your government, the cabinet you are a part of, has endorsed a memorandum of understanding with Alberta that, quote unquote, says Canada confirms that it will enable the export of bitumen from a strategic deep water port to Asian markets, including, if necessary, through an appropriate adjustment to the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act. Do you support that statement?
Well, certainly the commitment that's being
Okay,
made
that's
there
good. That's good.
is obvious.
I listened to the full 5.5 minutes, and I like it was like I could pull one tooth out at a time and feel more relief than listening to that for 5.5 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, he's just, he's adept in the art of saying nothing, like most politicians, including his boss.
And then he should have said to Vasi, did you not get the sausage rolls? Why are you asking this question 4 times?
Maybe afterwards he dangled a bag of sausage rolls in front of her just before he turned his camera off.
Absolutely incredible. Maybe when the Chinese government takes over Canada, they'll get a pipeline built because they won't ask anybody anything. They'll just build it over top of you if you stand in the way.
Yeah, you can go into a nice re-education camp.
And then the Western Standard put this out. Hidden federal carbon tax adds up to 7 cents a liter in 2026. Who cares, right? Who cares?
Go to see the hand gesture. It's a work of art, isn't it? Almost. It's like, is it Elvis that used to do that? Somebody used to do that, didn't it? David Bowie or something.
But here you go. Here's one for the Liberals. Federal managers, this is from Holly Nolan Blacklock's, federal managers have issued new guidelines for concealing records effective January 26th, including permanent deletion of chat posts within 15 days. This policy follows Prime Minister Carney election pledge that access to information was quite important. But if it's gone, you ain't getting it. What's changing? Read a notice issued by the managers of Veteran Affairs. Team channels, including private messages, deleted after 1 year. Team chats, including co-pilot messages, deleted after 15 days. Currently deleted after 30 days. Outlook deleted items. Emails permanently deleted after 30 days in the deleted items folder. Why are we deleting stuff? I thought records were supposed to be kept forever. And all of a sudden, we're just like deleting it. Keeping it longer increases risk and does not align with information management principles. Oh, it did not elaborate on what risks were posed. Risk to the government.
That's astonishing, isn't it?
It's just crazy. Transparency and accountability.
Teams is how they do their work. Teams is how they do business as well. Specifically, Teams chats. That's where it all goes down. And they're going to be deleted after 15 days.
Well,
that's just.
And then
I don't know. Am I really shocked?
Prime Minister Carney on April 25th told reporters he supported access to information. It's not in the platform, it's just in his head. There you go.
This is absolutely terrible, though. Really unfortunate. But I guess now lots of secrets can be kept.
Hillary Clinton would love this.
That annoying thing called democracy doesn't have to get in the way.
Hillary Clinton would love this. They would have just deleted that whole server. All those emails she hid there. But hey, and the cooling off periods, Chrystia Freeland took a little bit of heat on the cooling off period. She's not actually taking any heat on it because she's actually took a job inside the cooling off period, and she's working for a foreign government. But here's here's another one. Trudeau's former defense minister launches tech startup that could bolster Arctic sovereignty, and that's Juno Industries, wants to scale up both in Canada and worldwide. Why not? If Freeland can get away with it, why not everybody? Everybody.
So he's just going to go. He knows everybody. He knows all the protocols. Who you need to ask, who you need to send an email to, who you need to have dinner with to get a contract. Out of nowhere, spontaneously and coincidentally, he's going to end up with a nice juicy contract, isn't he, for the Arctic?
But you got to remember, he's done a bang-up job of the military. He was the former defense minister, and look at the state of the Canadian military. Wild, hey? I would think that he's probably
it's corruption on open display. It's right there. It's just like almost. It's a little bit like what Solzhenitsyn used to write, or how he explained it. That it's almost like it's done on purpose in such a grotesque way to humiliate you. It's just like, what are you going to do about it? You are a servant. You're on your knees. What are you going to do about it? This is corruption. Nobody's going to talk about it. It's not going to be on the CBC. There you go. Swallow it.
Well, if Chrystia Freeland can be viewed as an economic genius, he can be viewed as a military strategist. Because I mean, you look at the history of Chrystia Freeland and economics, you would think that she was a failure, and same for him. But turns out they fail up. And well
Yeah,
up.
and then another thing that he can claim to be now and before is a great Canadian patriot. But I didn't realize that patriotism made you so much money. I didn't know it was associated with such personal reward.
But they're not failing up in private corporations. They're failing up on the boob of the government or on the taxpayer, right? Because Chrystia Freeland has access now to all that money that Canada's given, and more money likely coming. That's Canadian tax dollars over there, and the same for this fine young gentleman. He's going to be using your tax dollars to further his business, and he's done such a bang-up job with the Canadian military over the past. How long was he the defense minister? I don't know. Just unbelievable. It's just hard to go on. Canadians are wary of a data portability like open banking. The Competition Bureau said yesterday it predicted consumer skepticism will limit take-up proposal of open banking concept studied by the Department of Finance since 2019. Understanding what drives consumers to embrace new technology is essential for successful innovation. The portability, I mean, Canada needs to open up its banking and to other nations. I mean, we need a more competitive banking environment. We're charging, again, like 28.8 and that on credit card debt. We're still charging on trades. And again, I advise people, open a Wealthsimple account and you can do everything there from crypto to gold to stocks to TFSAs to RRSPs to no banking fees. Why are you still using a Canadian bank that still takes your money and treats you like crap? That's a good question to ask yourself.
It's not the only market that needs to be opened up, though, is it? I mean, we were talking about Doug Ford earlier on, how angry he is and how he's worried that we're going to be alienating ourselves from the Americans. His previous tweet, where he's, because he did a long tweet where he complained about Mark Carney and the Chinese and the EVs and stuff. His previous tweet was talking about how great the dairy farmers of Ontario are. So it's like, there's another place, another market maybe that needs to be opened up. But there's like, this is the problem, isn't it? It's like so many politicians are compromised. They might argue for opening, let's say, banking or something like that, telecoms. But on the other hand, they're completely captured by another special interest group that wants a closed market.
Yeah, just look at what we pay for cell phones still in Canada compared to like places like China even. Like almost everywhere in the world, Japan, everything is almost dirt cheap, and including the US for cell phone. And here in Canada, lots of people are still paying $100 a month and having limits on their cell phone usage. It's absolutely atrocious. And in Europe too, it's like dirt cheap for cell phone coverage.
Yeah, in Britain it is. I mean, you can get, it's so easy. There's so many different players in that market. You can spend barely anything, like less than $10 a month almost, and be pretty much set.
And it doesn't even work. We're in an office tower on the 16th floor, dead center in the middle of Kelowna. And lots of times when I'm talking to Ian in Ottawa, I had to go stand at the window. I literally have to lean against the window to have cell phone coverage. Starlink, help, please, help.
I'll be banned soon. Don't worry.
And here you go. Here's the only shred of hope here in Canada. The reliable TV audience is just about dead. They're over 65 and dying. So Canadians most likely to trust TV news like CBC are over 65, and that's from CRTC and research. Canadians under 34 were least likely to rate mainstream media as factual and unbiased. Really? They're the only ones that are figuring it out? Come on, there's got to be more people than the people under 34 that have figured out that mainstream media has sold its soul for sausage rolls. Canadians 65 and over are more likely to be satisfied with the quality information and depth of analysis of David Cochrane. I'm ad-libbing there. David Cochrane and Rosie Barton, and to trust the information provided by Canadian news. Only a third of Canadians overall, 36%, said they were satisfied with the quality information and depth offered by the likes of Cochrane and Rosie Barton.
And I guess it's just purely coincidental that those two demographics that are being contrasted there happen to vote for different parties. Mm-hmm. And the ones that watch CBC, again, like I said, just purely coincidentally, They just happen to vote for the Liberal Party, which purely coincidentally happens to fund the CBC with massive amounts of money. I mean, all these coincidences,
Everybody's
it's
money.
almost it's a bit weird, isn't it? We need an astrologer to come in and, what's going on? All the planets aligned. Is Jupiter doing something this year? A lot of coincidences.
You got to stick around for the end of the show. I guarantee you're going to love it, because we do have the basically the poster lady for the CBC audience. So right at the end, we saved her for the end. And it only cost us $250,000 to get this research from Ipsos. You know who else makes a ton of money off the government here in Canada? All the pollsters, and they love doing a poll. I mean, they didn't Dr. Noma Meaner there did a poll to find out what you thought of a poll nobody wanted. She did a poll. She's the Dr. Mulder here in Canada, and she makes just under $400,000 a year to stare out the window looking for UFOs. And she did a poll that nobody wanted about UFOs.
But let's just look at this again. Sorry. This was a 2,367 person survey questionnaire, and it cost $250,000.
Well,
what? That doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense.
So I tell you right now,
how's that 250 grand? That's like a really basic survey. That I think you can commission these privately for a couple of $1,000s. What? Was it some kind of magic super special survey or something?
I think you and I need to send in a letter and say, we'll do it for $200,000 and we'll double the amount of people that we talk to.
And we'll give you any result you want.
$250,000 to talk to to get some 2,367 people, which was probably done out of a call center out of, a different country. And
so that's like, what's that, like $100 per person? Is that what that works out?
More, I think. But the future of TV is uncertain. No shade. You know what I mean? Because who can trust it? I remember once the cable company called me and they said, why don't you get cable back? And I said, what's on cable that I can't get on streaming services? And she's like, sports. And I said, well, you can get all the sports you want on streaming services. You can get NHL TV and all that stuff. Even better. And she said, well, you get the news. I said, I ain't paying anybody to lie to me. Why would I pay to have somebody lie to me? Like, I'm watching mainstream media news. And
I've already got a lawyer.
And she said, oh, you have a point there. I'm like, I know I have a point there. Why are people still paying for cable? And why are people still watching Rosemary Barton and David Cochran lie to them? Come on. Buy your own sausage rolls. That's the trick there. And then this is a liberal screech machine. Holly Doan puts out some good stuff. Like she's an independent journalist. And they run an organization called Blacklocks, and we do their stories here with their permission. So she puts out a story, and then why would anything BlackRock published be as reliable and subjective? And she's like, maybe read a little bit first. BlackRock is not BlackRock.
Look, don't they have a very clear agenda of capital movement? He's fully got that wrong there.
Oh my God. But here's the breaking news, and this is breaking. Turns out Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. What happened? Oh, it turns out Justin Trudeau, just our tech guy, went, oh, I was just wondering what happened. Appeals court upholds ruling in Emergencies Act use for Freedom Convoy was unreasonable. Again, really? It was unreasonable? That's odd. Parking violations, noise violations. And then we have the gall to tell other people in other countries, Iran, please respect peaceful protests. It's amazing.
And how much money have they wasted on this appeal as well? Because this decision, I think it was January 2024 that it came down that they'd violated the Constitution, that they were, they'd had no justification for invoking the Emergencies Act. So that's a couple of years ago. That's 2 years of lawyers lawyering. Yeah. How expensive has that been? Not to mention the judges whose salaries we also pay. I mean, and then they've lost, which a lot of people told them they probably were going to do anyway. And then they just give us the bill. That's just kind of how it works. Even though this was done for the Liberal government, this was done for the Liberal Party.
Yeah, they fought against it because they lost in the court the first time, and then they said, oh, they were so sure that they were right, and they lost again. When do the lawsuits start? That's my question. When do the civil actions start now? Because of this abuse of power and privilege. So many things were circumvented there to crush, like you said, No parlay, because that man there, who was going to speak in Davos on the after event there, in the after party with Katy Perry there. I don't know, so she's going to be there. In the after party on soft power. This man here, it was one of the most embarrassing moments in Canada's history. And I know a lot of screechers would scream that they deserved worse for parking violations.
No, yeah, still. I can remember like quite pleasant, sane people, even in my own sort of personal circle, talking about these Nazis and fascists are downtown. I was like, what are you talking about? That just goes to show how people just live in a bubble of ignorance, don't they? They have absolutely no idea.
Those are
Because
the people that
one
watch
clown
BBC.
walked through the crowd with a swastika flag. That was enough, apparently, to condemn the whole, like, all the thousands of people involved.
I interviewed Chris Barber recently. I think it's about a month ago now. It's on our channel here. You can go watch it. And I asked him about the Nazi flag. He said it showed up momentarily with like a reporter. I mean, Justin Trudeau's photographer happened to be right there at the opportune time. Nobody could find the person. Nobody saw the person had covered his face. Nobody knew him. He was gone right away. And that was what the media ran over and over and over again, that it was a Nazi movement. How fortuitous that a liberal reporter, a photographer was right there at the best time, right? He came out of the back door of a hotel, all cloaked, ran the flag up and down the street for a second, and it was gone. And then that was the flag that made the news. And then when the union did a protest there, an anti-protest, and they carried basically the hammer and sickle, never made the news at all.
Well, how many Hamas flags and whatnot have we seen with these protesters who were coming out every week to protest against Israel? Nothing, no pearls were clutched, were they? It was just kind of like, Hamas, yeah, silly billies. But the thing is, I could have told you that was obviously just provocation, or that was just somebody taking the pee with that flag. I could have told you that because, believe it or not, there aren't any bloody Nazis in Canada. I mean, except that guy that Justin Trudeau invited to Parliament. Like, come into reality. There aren't Nazis. They just don't exist. They basically do not exist. There might be a handful of mentally ill freaks who consider themselves Nazis, but there is no great Nazi movement in this country. Obviously, why would there be? Nazism is a uniquely German thing from the 1920s and 1930s. Like, shut up.
But if you needed to label a group, you can put that back, leave that back up there. If you needed to label a group and attach all the hate that goes with it, that's what you do. That's what you do. And then so the Federal Court of Appeal, it was a unanimous decision on Friday or today that upheld the 2024 ruling that found the federal government's use of the Emergency Act during the Freedom Convoy protest was unreasonable, unlawful, and unnecessary. You go back and read my LinkedIn post from way back then, abuse of power and privilege. Abuse of power and privilege, and they did that over and over again. I remember writing that stuff and all of the attacks I got on it. Like, people attacked me nonstop because of that. I mean, people should have a freedom to protest, and the same people would tell anybody else can go out there and protest endlessly, but not if you're protesting the Trudeau Liberals or the Liberals for that matter. I'm amazed in the China talks that they didn't condemn the United States' threats on Iran for killing thousands of people in the streets. Just when is that coming down? Yeah. The court also agreed with the lower court's finding that the use of the Emergency Act infringed on sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, including freedom of expression and protections against unreasonable search and seizure. You literally had the sausage media jumping up on the cab of those trucks, taking VIN numbers, doxing them, doing the research, doxing them, and then putting it out on social media so people would not frequent their companies, doxing them. The media did that.
Yep.
The sausage roll.
And the hack on the Give, Send, Go donation page was hacked.
Put that list out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they sent, an obvious privacy violation against the law that was sent to us as well. It was sent to basically every media outlet in Canada. Yeah. And it had like phone numbers, email addresses. I don't think it had actual addresses, but maybe it did. I can't actually remember. And that was just despicable. Like, we got this, and it was like, there's no way we can use this. This is just like criminal. This is like psychopathic. Then an hour later or whatever, it's on all the websites. It's on all of the news sites. Just like Bob Jones from Scarborough, Ontario,
And we
gave
got to remember,
$5 to give Sengo. It's like, what?
and you got to remember, Mark Carney also advised Chrystia Freeland to freeze bank accounts. And then the media did a really great job of when they froze that bakery's bank account there, they gave a $250 donation out there on the island and made sure that made front page news everywhere as an example, like putting a head on a stick and saying, look, and they froze her bank account. Basically, she can't do business. They basically tried to destroy her business and then made her an example so that anybody else that dared donate or make any kind of like, sympathy for that. And, I remember having arguments even with some of our reporters here. And they're saying, oh, these are a bunch of fringe Nazis. They're repeating the talking lines from Trudeau and the government-funded media. And I said, that doesn't explain the tens of thousands that line the ditches on the way to Ottawa. I mean, they say it's just a fringe movement, a small group, but it's tens of thousands of people. Plus, they raised like $10 million, 24 hours? It was one of the biggest fundraisers ever. And then they threatened to attack GoFundMe, pushed back on them for a while, and then they used the long arm of the law. I mean, they just really went at it. And so GoFundMe said, I don't want any of this. And then it went into Give, Send, Go or whatever. Absolute abuse of power and privilege.
Very Chinese methods there, because the Chinese dictatorship does exactly that kind of thing to you. It gets into your bank accounts, prevents you from getting on the train and things like that. Like basically makes your life impossible without necessarily having to actually imprison you. It was like a modern form of authoritarianism.
I just wonder when the civil lawsuits will start. You just wonder. But they get protections, the MPs get protections, but not all the other people get protections and all the other stuff. There's still a lawsuit out there, though, too. And because I have John Carpay on from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom all the time. I think there's a $10 million lawsuit against the truckers right now from Ottawa residents, said that they disturbed their sleep.
Yeah, they were very upset about it.
We did this story yesterday, but I just wanted as a reminder. The head of the sausage factory there, CBC's job is social cohesion. They don't even hide it. So Mark Miller, the heritage minister, who's in charge of the CBC now, says that CBC's job is to promote social cohesion. I thought they were supposed to do news. Social cohesion? Those are
hold the government to account. Maybe that's more important.
Those are communist words. Social cohesion. You will comply.
Well, I think of them more as being imperial words. That's the language of an empire. Like the Ottoman Empire was very concerned with that kind of thing. Even go back even earlier than that, like the empire in the wake of when Alexander the Great died, and you had the Hellenic Empire. There was lots of that going on. Like, how do we get all these people to live together? How do we get social cohesion out of this great rabble of people? It's quite crackers to think that it's happening here in Canada.
Well, if somebody said we should have Pat King on, well, if you can connect us with them, we'd gladly have these people on. We had the doctors on, nurses on, they were fired, all that kind of stuff. We were doing things nobody else would do. And we got lots of threats for that too, about how we are a threat to democracy. Asking questions, holding power to account, threat to democracy. That's wild, eh? I guess. Immigrants more likely to associate Canada with ethnic diversity, human rights, than Canadian-born citizens. And unsurprising news, another survey, I wonder who paid for this one, has found that immigrants are more likely to associate with their adopted country with the likes of human rights and ethnic diversity than the citizens born in a country. The results included in a briefing note given to Immigration Minister Lina Diab, who spent much of her childhood in Lebanon, also shows that immigrants are generally happier with their lives than Native Canadians. Yeah, Native Canadians can't get access to health care. Right? They don't get front-of-the-line service and everything. I mean, anyway.
That's not good, though, is it? I mean, there's lots that they found in there, like that immigrants are more likely to have row houses or semi-detached houses. Native Canadians are more likely to have single-family homes and things like that. And I was reading through it, and I was thinking, maybe that's why the immigrants are happier than Native Canadians, because the decline in living standards is experienced by a lot of the immigrants as an improvement on where they've come from. Whereas the Canadians who were born here have observed this decline in living standards, and they're very sad about it. They're very upset about it.
I write lots on LinkedIn, so if you want to read some of the stuff that I write, and it goes back years now. I stuck up for people that didn't want to take the COVID vaccine too, and I was called a threat by some of the leading community people here, a threat to the safety and welfare. And I just said people should have a right to choose. And you can go read it. You can find me on LinkedIn, and our names are on there. You can put our names up there too, right? So you can find me there if you want to read some of that stuff. It goes back a while. Here you go, the Canadian Dental program here. Don't forget that we spent $473 million administering the program over 2 years. Just administering, not for the claims, just for administering. Who got that money? That's a question. Canadians who qualify for the Canadian Dental Care Program may also draw from provincial benefits at the same time. Rules did not permit double dipping, but rather complementary coverage of varying fees. Canadian residents who have access to publicly financed dental coverage through a program offered by their province or territory are able to apply for the Canada Dental Care Program if they meet all eligibility requirements or criteria. The Canada Plan is intended to complement other social dental programs. So you can double dip, I guess. There you go. We got a little bit of text
stuff. No double dipping.
We got a little bit of tech stuff for you. Here's a little chart here. This is from Kathy Wood of ARK Invest. This is AI adoption versus the internet adoption. It's happening. So that might be our saving grace, that AI might find a way to cut through the lies when they're deleting all the files all the time. You know, they won't provide transparency. They're trying to seal records. How many stories have we done in the past month of Liberals sealing records, hiding records, refusing to provide records? All the, you know what I mean? How many stories we do? And you're not going to find any of those on the CBC because they're buried under a pile of sausage rolls. You can never get to those stories, I guess, right? Me and sausage rolls. I don't know. I'm going to let that one go for a while. I just couldn't believe that.
You're just making me hungry. I'm going to have to go. There's like a British bakery not too far from where I am. I'm going to have to go get some sausage rolls.
If somebody gave us money for sausage rolls, we're going to have to get some.
Send them to the studio and you can eat them.
If you do like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell, ring that notification bell. And then if you want to contribute to independent media, by all means. And great. We love that as well. But
Donald Trump has Donald Trump's breaking news. Donald Trump's responded to Carney in China, and he said, it's okay. That's what he should be doing. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that. So I wouldn't necessarily take that as like, oh, we're off the hook, because he said the same thing about the Ontario ad,
2 days later,
the Ronald Reagan ad, and then he had a meltdown a few days later.
Let's wait for a couple of days. The AI boom is driving capital spending to highs not seen since the late 90s. In 2025, investment in data center systems, compute, and that is grew 47%. So, you know, it's huge, right? I was going to do that Daniel Smith thing, but we're a little long in the tooth. We're going to leave it. Here, Polymarkets. Polymarkets, no, go back. There's these Polymarket charts, Bank of Canada. You see those? Yeah, so Polymarkets is, you know, some people say it's gambling, but Polymarkets is basically commodity trading. I mean, you can buy futures. What's that? It's like tech. You know, you can do this. So this is the Bank of Canada decision in January, and basically saying there's a 2% chance. That's what the betting market is saying, that there's not going to be a decrease, right? There's 98% chance that there will be no change, and that goes into March as well. So, but you can bet on almost anything in the poly markets. And there's another one here. Will a province schedule a referendum to leave Canada before 2027? Right now, that poly market is around 33%. And don't forget, we used poly markets when we were doing election coverage. And they basically nailed it, right? They nailed Trump winning. They nailed Carney. They nailed, you know, it was pretty wild how poly markets work, right? So, but you can go in there and bet sports, but it's basically, and we're going to do a lot more of it, because it's basically a futures market that's kind of combined with tech and gambling. You know, you could say, like, I mean, futures, you could argue, like, you know, people used to bet in the COMEX and that, bet on the price of gold, bet on the price of silver, corn, wheat, soybeans, orange juice futures. And the Hunt brothers made a fortune off of, you know, orange juice, betting on, you know, Florida freeze. They used to be the big thing in the news all the time. Will the Florida orange crops freeze? And And then, you know, like then there was more balance because there was more oranges grown in different spots and that. But Hunt Brothers tried to corner the silver market, all that kind of stuff. But this gets the average person now that you can go bet on. I'm not saying you're going to bet, or you can go predict the future on different things, poly markets. We've used it in the past. We'll bring more of it into play because I think it's very interesting. How tech marries.
Joe's just given us some sausage money. I think we should thank him for that.
Thank you, Joe. Sausage money. Everybody could use it. We can get some condiments with that as well.
How many sausages could you get for that? How many beef sausages? Maybe, unless you go to Costco.
Well, you can get still $1.50 for a sausage or a hot dog. Hot dog. And X has been hit for the last couple, twice in the last week here. Keir Starmer's got an MI6 on it, I guess. But it's unusual to see X go down.
Yeah, I had to go on Blue Sky to do 5 things this morning. That was hard.
Blue Sky. We got something really good. Just wait for the end. You're going to love it. I absolutely love it. Here's Chamath here. They say Chamath's net worth is about $5 billion. He's a big fan of Elon Musk. He's a very sharp guy. He used to be a Canadian as well. And he said that he spoke in Toronto, and he said basically what Ian and I say all the time. Energy. You must watch the show. Energy is everything. And Chamath wants to fund independent journalism too. So Chamath, a big fan of independent journalism. Love the work that Nick Shirley is doing. We got this thing that we're trying to start up here, Independent News Network. And we're going to reach out to Chamath and see if he wants to get it off the ground here, because I think people need a news source that they can rely on. And it's coming from the independents. But let's listen to this clip on what Chamath thinks the world order is and how it works.
There's about 150 people that run the world. Anybody who wants to go into politics, they're all fucking puppets, okay? There are 150, and they're all men, that run the world, period, full stop. They control most of the important assets. They control the money flows. And these are not the tech entrepreneurs. Now, they are going to get rolled over the next 5 to 10 years by the people that are really underneath pulling the strings. And when you get behind the curtain and see how that world works, what you realize is it is unfairly set up for them and their progeny. First order of business is, I want to break through and be at that table. That's the first order of business.
There you go. That's good enough, yeah. I don't know if they're going to let Chamath in the room, but hey, you know, he says he wants in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds a bit funny, really, that. It sounds like a bit like Alex Jones or something. I don't know what he's been smoking.
Well, I mean, I've also said it a few times that those big families, you know, like the Rockefellers and that kind of just move pieces around on a board, right, sometimes. And I mean, how else do you explain Zelensky as the the president of Ukraine, Justin Trudeau, the prime minister of Canada, both actors, both drama.
Well, Trump as well, the reality TV star, media star, you could argue.
He did accomplish something prior to becoming the president. Do you know what I mean? Like
he
those two other guys, nothing, right? Well, I guess.
Yeah, well, Zelensky was he was quite a famous TV star, wasn't he? I guess that is some kind of achievement.
Dancing around in a leather outfit.
The one who truly achieved nothing, either before or after or during being in power, is Justin Trudeau. Literally a man of no accomplishments. Nothing at all, other than having a special second name.
In international news here.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
I've been following Nouriel Roubini for a long time, and he's got a prediction right now. And he says the U.S. remains at the center of the technology-driven positive supply shock that raises growth and lowers inflation over time. And I've been saying this for a while, that technology will lead the way forward. And technology will drive inflation down. It'll be actually a period of deflation. And then growth will go through the roof. GDP will go through the roof as well. I mean, the U.S. is touting double-digit GDP in the next little while. And I believe, even though that'll probably get me some grief, that the United States is entering a golden age because of all the tech and all the capital investment going there. In Canada, not so much. We're entering an economic winter due to bad choices that we've made, because all the riches are beneath our feet and we still don't seem to want to get it out. I mean, the deal, I mean, kudos to them. They got a deal for EVs and some canola, but that doesn't unlock any of the resources. Our real wealth is beneath our feet there, right? So nothing in that regard.
Well, the technology growth that the Americans are seeing, it's completely relying on energy.
Yeah.
People are becoming a little bit more accustomed to that idea, aren't they? As Mark Zuckerberg and all the rest of them, Bill Gates, search around desperately for some way to power their data centers. But it's, this supply shock, so de-inflation or like getting, increase in GDP per capita, which just increases everything. Everything gets better then. Health, education, how long you live, how well you can adapt to shocks, like sudden economic shocks or like a natural disaster, even something like that. Like everything goes up when you get more money in, and you can only really get richer through the deployment of massive amounts of energy. And the only energy form that we have that can actually do that at scale is fossil fuels. So it's very, very weird, isn't it? The more you think about it, the more you read about it. Hostility to fossil fuels is like hostility to life almost. It's like a hostility to nice things like longevity and kids not dying of malaria and things like that. It's just such a very peculiar ideology.
It's just weird. Yeah, yesterday too, somebody just put in here, Jay Maxwell, canola oil is pure poison for the body. I don't do a lot of oils for sure. I watched the dairy farmers were in the Oval Office. Here's the thing that we just got to remember. People have this TDS or whatever, but Trump allows the reporters in the Oval Office when he's doing deals, even when he's on the phone, all that kind of stuff. He invites them in. They get questions like, I don't know what, a couple hours a day, almost every day. Joe Biden probably did in 4 years less than Trump did in a week. Do you know what I mean? He provides access, more access probably in a week than Biden provided in 4 years in administration. And then if you look in Canada, if you add up all the minutes and the questions that are allowed, and then if you take out the selected sausage roll media, if you take away the sausage roll media from Canadian, from the questions asking, it literally would probably add up to less than like 4 hours since Mark Carney's been in power. Because to be fair, we got one question with no follow-up. We got one question when he was here.
Well, if you watch that press conference in Beijing as well, they only gave them one question, no follow-up. Even the sort of loyal sausage roll munchers that went to Beijing with him, that were invited, that were permitted to be in the presence of the mighty one, they only got one question. And then someone asked the question, got a very unsatisfactory answer, and was like, no, he sort of followed up informally. And he was like, no, Mr. Carney, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And then his little woman intervened and just said, that's it. You only asked one question, like no follow-ups. Carney just said, in response, with a smirk on his face, just said, we. That's what he said.
Everything is controlled. Everything is absolutely controlled. Delete messages, delete this, don't provide access. This is not democracy. This is not a healthy democracy. They are the absolute opposite of a democracy.
The contrast could not be more stark between Canada and the US when it comes to scrutiny of the rulers by the media. They put us to shame, and the elite in this country should be ashamed for many reasons, but they should definitely be ashamed that the guy they consider a tyrant and a horrible oaf and all the rest of it is actually much better when it comes to talking to the media. He's a lot more open. He's a lot more willing to be scrutinized and willing to be, in some cases, attacked by members of the press. And he's willing to defend his ideas. That really is not the case here. And it's kind of like a slowly unfolding tragedy. It's becoming worse and worse.
Someone says we should put it in our merchandise, like something like, we will not sell our principles for a sausage roll. Maybe for 2.
Well, speak for yourself, mate. If anybody wants to offer me a sausage roll, I'll consider it.
Oh my! It's absolutely crazy. These same people that scream. We have an MP here locally that I know personally, that refuses to answer emails from this organization. That a reporter here that has the most, probably around most respected reporters, business reporter here in this valley, refuses to answer 7 emails. 7 emails were sent to Stephen Fuhrer, the MP here locally. 7 emails. Refuses to answer. And then I had a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that is just...
I had a discussion.
That is even less forgivable when it's that proximate, when you're that close to each other, when it's like, you know, he's the Kelowna MP. Now Media is headquartered in Kelowna. It's like, it's just completely unforgivable, frankly. And yet, it's just permitted, isn't it? It just goes on. Nobody really raises a fuss. As far as I'm aware, not a single outlet in Kelowna or the Okanagan has mentioned anything about it. They never would. They don't care.
They read the story. You know, they read the story, but they didn't do anything about it. I did talk to a former media person that ran one of the bigger, or worked for one of the bigger outlets here. And I said, and you know, she said, you know, like that he's a really nice guy. And I said, well, and then I said to her all the stuff. And then it says, as a journalist, what's your answer to that? And she's like, well, that's really bad. That's really bad. But he's a really nice guy. Oh, that excuses it then. There you go. He's a great, nice guy that refuses to adhere to just the basic foundations of democracy. But hey, that's who we have. Why not, right?
Well, he's a very powerful individual as well, isn't he? In charge of procurement, military procurement.
And big deal, U.S. and Taiwan reached a historic agreement. That's as Mark Carney pulled the Liberal MPs out of Taiwan as he visited China. That's got to give you a little bit of shiver and heebie-jeebies as well, as he tells the Liberal MPs to get out of Taiwan because he's in there in China. Wild.
And he talked about it. He was asked that question. He talked about the one China policy, which is just this ridiculous farce where we pretend that Taiwan is part of China, but not quite. It's just such a stupid situation that was done to appease the Chinese Communist Party, like so many other things. But again, I refer back to what I was saying earlier. This is the party of, the Liberal Party. It presents itself as the party of good stuff and morality and decency and humanity and all the rest of it. What a load of cobblers that is. Absolute bollocks. I mean, they're as cynical and amoral as any other party in this country.
Well, we got something really good at the end here, but we're just going to kind of skirt through a couple of these things. The U.S. and Denmark agreed to establish a working group, and that's Rubio and Vance had met there. It sounds like, I mean, they're working on something. I don't know what they're working on, but they're getting a whole technical talks on that acquisition or different things. And then I believe that opposition leader there, Maria Machado, is going to be at the White House, or was at the White House on Thursday.
Yeah, she presented Donald Trump with her Nobel Prize.
She's, I imagine she wants to get installed as the leader of Venezuela. Venezuela.
You got to start saying things in like the natives do, as they were doing on, what was it, CNBC or whatever?
Oh yeah,
like El Salvador. You got to do it like that. Maduro, yeah. But then they only ever do it for a couple of things. They never do it for other countries. So they need to learn.
Yeah.
They need to learn.
And then here's your country here, or your former country, with Keir Starmer. And basically, Europe is fast becoming a geriatric Disneyland. The UK moves a step closer to deindustrialization as salt production now at risk. The British, who invented the modern world with their industrial revolution, are now so far down the road of deindustrialization that they are potentially at risk of relying on imports of salt, one of the most basic substances in the modern economy. There's something really wrong in the UK. In a report from Sky News, economics reporter Ed Conway learned that the UK's remaining industrial enterprise on how the country no longer produces essentials such as fertilizer, sulfuric acid, and high energy prices caused by the country's net zero policy, including carbon taxes to blame. Peter Huntsman in America, who runs one of the few remaining chemical plants in the UK, says we're using more of the products today than ever we have in history, and the raw materials make it right here are offshore. It's right under our feet right now. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Does it sound familiar to you? Does it sound familiar?
I tell you what, it's a really good job that we don't have a high-ranking British official in charge of Canada. Otherwise, I'd be really, really worried.
It's just like if you want to see the future of Canada, you just have to go look at the UK. There's the future,
Yep,
right?
socially and economically.
Playing out right there for all to see. It's the same actor that was there that's here. Just playing out.
Literally the same cast.
Just playing out there for you to see. You just got to wonder what the skit is. Not sure.
But seriously, like salt, you would think, all right, okay, so they're not going to be able to have, salt on their chips or whatever. It's not that simple, is it? I mean, it's put into all kinds of chemical processes. And then the other ones, like steel, obviously, the British have just basically given up on steel. They don't have steel production anymore. How can you be a serious independent country in the 21st century and not even be able to produce your own steel? They don't even produce their own ammonia. That Haber-Bosch process goes back more than 100 years. It's the reason that we're all alive, pretty much. It's fair to say, because you can produce nitrogenous fertilizers from the air, basically. The British don't do that anymore. They have to get it from overseas. So they don't even feed themselves, obviously. It's about 50% food consumed in Britain is grown there. But then they don't even get the fertilizers for that 50% from the country. They have to go overseas, probably somewhere like China or maybe Ukraine. They knock out quite a lot of fertilizers. But it's just like the country it's well and truly deindustrialized. And it's just now like, it's just this pathetic slave, basically. It can't look after itself. It's just completely reliant on everybody else. Just like even for salt, like what a pathetic fate for the British, who we have to remember made all this. Everything we're doing now, everything we've got, all the technology, everything Elon Musk is playing with now, for example, it all goes back to Britain. And now the British have just given it up and they're just like lying dead in the corner. It's just so pathetic.
You have to wonder, we talk about King Arthur all the time, why he would be just so disappointed with what's going on. But what is King Charles doing? Just sitting there and watching the empire crumble around him, just watching it crumble. Just
he's not bothered. Yeah.
Willing it to crumble, it seems like sometimes. It's just like, you have to wonder. But here we got the treat for you here, because there's they've discovered a new bird out there in. You cover your ears if you don't like the cry of this new bird. This new bird out there in the BC coastline there. You can hear her. She sounds a bit like a chicken, but we're not sure. But I don't think she's endangered because there's birds like her almost everywhere. But listen to her. Her mating call there. I think that's what it is.
Hey bro, what kind of bird is that? Huh? What kind of bird is that?
First.
I'm not really sure. I think it's a legendary character.
Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Get the hell out of here! You're not welcome! Go away! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off!
Those are decoys, not ducks. Fucking retard.
Oh, fuck off! We don't want you shooting around here!
I don't give a fuck. I don't want you walking around here.
Oh, fuck off! This is public property!
Exactly my point. Thanks for proving our
That's
point.
good. That's good. Where'd Ian go? I don't know what happened. Sorry. I'm not sure if Ian's coming back or not, but that was a new species of bird out there in the BC coast there, as she wanted them to stop. I don't know what they were supposed to stop doing, but I don't know if Ian's coming back. We're just give it a second and see if he comes back so he can say goodbye for the week. But if you can like, share, subscribe, we'd appreciate that. Oh, there he is. He's back. What happened?
I got sausage.
You got a sausage roll? Somebody knocked on the door.
The sausage roll in my computer stopped working.
The Liberals brought a bag of sausage rolls over and said you had to quit. You had to quit, just take this bag of sausage rolls. But
I can't not get sausage rolls to this weekend now, can I? I've got to do it.
that bird, that bird is not. I don't think she's endangered though. I mean, there's many of that bird all over the United States for sure, and you see many of them around everywhere. They look very similar though.
Did you see that the CBC did an article in defense of? I can't remember. What did they say? Wine moms? Yeah. Wine moms are being blamed for the ICE protests. We've heard this one before, says CBC.
Yeah, CBC doing the work and selling its soul for sausage rolls and, well, $1.55 billion as well of your tax dollars. They come basically into your house, take half the food off your table, and then feed you a diet of garbage. Social cohesion. They've been told by the boss, literally their boss. Mark Miller is their boss. And Mark Carney said they are the most important institution in Canada because they give him the power. That's where the power comes from the Liberal Party, the media that does not hold power accountable, what we pay $1.55 billion for. And then you go back and watch that clip over and ingrain it in your mind. Go back and watch that clip over and over and over again with Mark Carney in the sausage factory there, the bakery, picking out sausage rolls. Not one reporter dared ask a question as they were getting. And those sausage rolls, as Ian said, were given to the reporters. That's not a stretch. We're not making it up. He was picking the sausage rolls out for the reporters, and they waited there patiently without asking questions about conflicts of interest, pipelines. They didn't ask no questions, nothing. They had no questions on their mind other than when will they be tasting that sausage roll given to them.
And I think it's fair to say, it's not an exaggeration to say that had one of those journalists asked a question, that journalist would not have been given a sausage roll. Almost certainly. So it's ridiculous as it is. It's kind of the whole thing in miniature, isn't it? Like in a sort of Monty Python style.
That's what we try to do here. Again, like, share, subscribe. We're almost at 30,000. We're trying to get to 30,000 before the weekend ends. We're banging on the door of 1 million views this month as well. So that's we thank you, all of you that come and watch this on a daily basis, and especially the people that come in live and ask and comment and help us spread the word, help independent journalism break through and get more people seeing the truth, because the truth is, even though it's tough to look at, we try to bring a little humor to it as well. So, yeah, we are definitely really appreciative of everybody here that comes on a daily basis. And we're working on a couple of things here, so more good stuff to roll out soon. So thank you. And we'll see you next week, Monday morning at 9 a.m. Cheers.